So from there, you're by the side of the road with the pickup truck selling corn. How do you get from there to opening your own publishing industry in 1998? Is it just straight to New York? Get me the first job of publishing I can find. What are the steps that you take?
Oh, I can tell you. So I went to college and I didn't know what to do after my senior year. I had a boyfriend I really liked who was in graduate school at my same college. And we had this house where we shared with a couple other people. And I worked at the golf course. I worked in the snack bar. I always liked playing. Back then, I haven't played golf in years, but I had supposedly I had a very sweet swing. I took golf, and because where I went to college, you had to have a gym class, so I took golf, and it turned out I was really good at it. So I worked at the golf course and the snack bar. I was kind of trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do, and the only thing I could think of that I wanted to do was to work in publishing, because I had done an internship in New York City my junior year at the Council of Literary Magazines, and it wasn't even the stories I was reading or any of that. It was the feeling. It was the idea that I felt like myself around the people I worked with. And that was kind of a new feeling to me. It's like, oh, I can just be myself and make whatever nerdy jokes I want to make, because everybody thinks I'm funny, and I didn't have to try at all. And so I thought I wanted to go in publishing, and I answered a call from a headhunter. I was up in Ithaca, New York, and I also knew I wanted to live in New York City. That was very clear. And I told them that I wanted to work in publishing, and this headhunter started sending me on job interviews, and he sent me on one interview to the American Bible Society, and he said that they published a scripture in 1,700 languages, and it would be I'd have my foot in the door of publishing because of that. And it was in near Columbus Circle. And so I went to the interview, and they asked me, do you like writing letters and signing someone else's name? And I said, of course. Not. And he asked me a bunch of questions. And I'm not a non-religious person, but I'm not a religious person. I know there are things bigger than all of us. I'm not an atheist, but I'm definitely not someone who goes to church every Sunday. So I took this job, and after and then the headhunter got me the job, started taking me to art galleries and offering me marijuana and different kind of drugs. And
this is the fellow that got you hooked up with the Bible job?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's in the 80s. It's in the late 80s. Okay. So things were different then. He'd be sued today. So he said, and I started seeing this part of New York. It's like, oh, there's art galleries. And I was very much a farm girl, right? So I had good taste, but I didn't know New York very well. And then I started really hating my job. And anytime, if I got there at 9:10, they would make me stay till 5:10. And it was that kind of job that was, you punched your time card, and you had your 20-minute breaks. And I had to try to help raise funds for the Bible Society. So after 1 month, I started sending my resume out, and my headhunter found out, and he said, I hear your resume is on the street. And at that point, I would, type my resume, print it out, put it in an envelope, and put it in the post box. This is like a long time ago, right? With a stamp. I'd circle ads I wanted in the New York Times or jobs I wanted. And that's when I started understanding how the world worked. Because if I didn't stay in my job for 3 months, he wouldn't get his commission. And so then everything started making sense. And I was so innocent and green, I didn't really get it before then. And so he was taking me out and all this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't think I was cute or whatever, but he needed me to stay there 3 months, right?
Oh, why couldn't it be both? He thought you were lovely and he wanted to make sure he got his commission.
Yeah, probably the latter. So after 1 month, I quit, and I had answered an ad, and I ended up working for this amazing person who's now 74 years old. He's retired. He's still my very good friend. He's a mentor to me. And I was his secretary at Harper, and I worked for him for a couple of years. And then after a few more years, I got into children's books, but I didn't. The first few years of my career, I had nothing to do with children's books. And then Michael DeCaprio asked me to come with him back to Harper and work with him on his imprint. And I got to know Maurice Sendak and some of these super brilliant creators of picture books. So I did that for 6 years. And then the reason I left was that I started wanting to publish books for my own list, and I'd bring projects I really loved to the acquisitions meeting, and people would vote against them, and it really didn't rub me the right way because I believed in them. And so at that point, I'd been doing it for 6 or 7 years. And I just thought, I'd rather succeed or fail on my own taste than have someone else tell me what I can buy. And so I opened the door at Pippin, and, back then there really weren't very many children's, we don't just do children's books anymore, but it was very focused on children's, and there weren't very many agencies like that. And so I took the plunge, and it turned out that a lot of people liked the same things I did and wanted to publish them, and I didn't have to deal with an acquisition committee anymore, except that a project I might send would go to that committee, but I didn't have to be in the room. And that's how Pippin started. And it was I was all by myself for 3 years.